Hey, I'm here. I need to run to the restroom really quick.
Sounds good to me. Hello, Jessica.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful, thanks for asking.
I'm going to make you a co-host now.
Great.
As we go. I'm not the most technologically inclined person, but I have practiced. So
Well, I have faith in you, and I think the two of us can get through this together.
that's more than I can ask.
Yeah.
About like that. All right. Do you have any questions? Everything good to go?
I think everything's good to go. I can share my screen. Yeah, that's all looking good here so far.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm just waiting on the interpreters to come in, and then we'll start right on time.
Great.
Do you have slides to share or anything?
Yeah, there's going to be some slides, and then we have two activities that we'll be doing. The first is a meditation activity, and the second one is chair yoga.
Okay. You don't need anything from a tech standpoint from us?
I don't think so, no. I guess just if I get too focused on my presentation and I ignore questions, if you could like nudge me.
I'll keep track of the chat box just in case.
Great. Yeah, and I am getting over a horrible cold, unfortunately, so I may cough.
I'm sorry. Getting over is better than beginning.
Exactly. And we're not in person, so no one will be afraid of my coughing.
Right. Yeah, I guess I don't even think of that, but I've had terrible allergy sneezing lately. You're right. If I was in public, I'd probably frighten everyone around.
Like we have to be self-conscious about these things now since COVID. It's very interesting. I got my test, of course, just to make sure I didn't have it, even though I'm vaccinated. And even still, I was like, well, I can't go out in public because people don't know that I don't have it. And I'm hacking up a lung.
Right. I'm not like wearing my
Yeah, I don't have like it stamped on my forehead that I'm COVID free and vaccinated.
I saw somewhere, I can't remember where this person was, that they got a tattoo of their vaccination card. I don't remember, on their arm or something.
My goodness, that's funny. Do you know how many people we have signed up?
For this workshop, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of how many was in mine yesterday. I guess I really didn't look closely, but there's been a pretty good turnout for each of them. And I've seen that, so we have 2 or 3 each time. Mm-hmm. Seems like they're pretty evenly attended, which is like, you never know if you're going to have one with, 3 people or one,
Yeah, I was thinking today might be tricky because I know a lot of people did yoga this morning. So I did
have a good turnout for that. However, if people were really into that this morning, they may be like, I'm interested in that again.
Some more of that, yeah.
It went really well.
That's great.
That was a nice. I used to be in the habit of doing yoga every morning, and when I say used to, it's been a year or something.
Sure.
But it reminded me of like, that is the time to do it. Then the rest of the day, you're just kind of a little bit
better.
A little bit.
And I think, we get, I know I do with my home practice because I'm human. I don't practice all the time as I should either. And it's like even 2 minutes of just doing one pose is practicing yoga, so we don't have to be so hard on ourselves and think, oh, I have to do it for 40 minutes or it doesn't count,
I teach senior citizen yoga at the Jewish Community Center. And that's exactly it. I mean, you can't do a whole lot, right? So it's just very like, do what you can, and that's the best way. It's just so much less. I always tell younger people to come, especially if you're beginning, just,
Or even if you're not, it can be great work on the ego in your practice.
Absolutely, that's true. I have tried so many different music things and things like that because I'm not. Hi, Anne-Marie.
Hey, how are you? Can you hear
I'm
me?
going to make you a co-host. Yes. And I'm going to spotlight you so that you stay up. Maybe. Oh. Anne-Marie, can you start your video when you get a chance so that I can spotlight your video to make sure you stay up top the whole time? April, you're going to be so impressed to know that I've clicked all of the right buttons so far.
I am extremely impressed already. It is nice to meet you, Jessica.
Nice to meet you, April.
It is nice to meet you as well. I'll be doing your introduction today.
Great.
Let's see, with, Kendra's doing tech support. I was
That's
going to say, is there anything else that
That's
you
hilarious, right?
So I have everything here, I think. I have one quick question for you. When I look at the your letters, how do I say each letter? MSSA, LISW -S.
I don't think you have to. In my first slide, I talk a little bit about qualifications, and I can review that stuff if you don't want to.
I don't mind. I just want to give you your credit the way it's supposed to be.
The MSSA part is my degree. It's not really a license. It's just we write it that way.
Okay.
So if you just want to say that I'm a licensed independent social worker supervisor, that's fine.
Nice.
And then the CYT means certified yoga teacher at 300 hours.
I'm about to say all of this, Jessica. I just wanted to make sure I said it correctly.
Yeah, no problem.
Credit where credit is due. I'm excited
and
about
if you don't say it correctly, that's also fine.
I appreciate you.
Yeah,
I'm super excited about this workshop.
Yeah.
All right. Hi. Oops. Oh my gosh, I lose you.
Hello. We'll be your two interpreters this afternoon.
Perfect.
If you're able to pin us,
Yep.
and then one of us will be screen on and off as we switch out during the presentation.
Yep.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Jessica, you do it all.
Oh, no. I studied sign language for a couple of years in college, but I don't get to use it very often, so I've lost a lot of it.
I bet it comes back. Does it come back?
Just bits. Just bits.
All right, I'm going to open it up for everyone else. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. It looks like everyone's coming in right now from the waiting room.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Workshop 14, Caring for Our Roots, a Provider's Guide to Self-Care Through the Root Chakra. I'd like to introduce you to our speaker, Jessica Martin. Jessica Martin has been the Director of Clinical Services for the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center since 2020. She served trauma survivors and their providers the previous 10 years at Women Safe, Inc. Jessica's prior experience includes Chief Clinical Officer and Yoga Instructor at the Greenhouse Domestic Violence Shelter, providing trauma therapy to adult and child survivors, advocacy, and teaching yoga in the community. Jessica, MSSA, LISW-S, CYT-300, received her Master of Science in Social Administration from Case Western Reserve University in 2011, and a 300-hour Hatha and Restorative Yoga certification from Awaken Yoga in 2019. To have a successful long-term career in the trauma field, she believes we need an intentional and sustainable practice of self-care. Her favorite self-care activities include meditation, breath work, caring for plants, playing video games, and spending time with her family and friends. Please help me welcome Jessica Martin.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to meet all of you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I feel I don't even have to say anything about myself now. That was perfect. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and start the presentation. Feel free, if you have questions during the training, to pop them in the chat, and I'll do my best to pause every so often and check that. So now, fingers crossed that everything works. Okay, and can we all see the slides? Are we good? Great.
You're good.
Wonderful. So as was mentioned before by April, thank you so much. I do have 9 years experience as a trauma therapist and chief clinical officer. This was at a domestic violence shelter in Chardon, Ohio called Women Safe, the Greenhouse. And currently I'm at the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center. Through my yoga practice, I really got my certification so that I could integrate it into the trauma work that I was already doing. Through this, I got the opportunity to provide yoga to not just our clients at the shelter, but also to the providers themselves. And it gave me a really unique perspective on the different needs that we have in the work that we're doing. For today, I just wanted to outline a couple of things for you. The first is that, we will be doing some light chair yoga practice and breath work, as well as meditation throughout the course of this training. And these are all invitations. What that means is that you're welcome to decline an invitation. So you'll be invited to set intentions, but you don't have to. You'll be invited to breathe, but if that does not feel comfortable for you, you're welcome to return to your normal breath at any time. You'll be invited to sit in meditation. However, if this is not comfortable for you, you don't have to. And when it comes to the chair yoga, we'll talk more about safety in just a bit. But the key is to remember that you are the master of your own practice, and you should do what feels right for you. We will be practicing in a trauma-informed way. And so when I outline these things for all of you, this is kind of how I would do it if I were teaching in a class. You are welcome to listen and observe only if you'd like. You're welcome to turn off your cameras during movements and meditation if that feels more comfortable for you. As well, there's many instructions about closing eyes. We don't have to close our eyes. We can leave them open or slightly open, whatever feels the best. When it comes to safety, as I mentioned, you're your own guide, so stop immediately if you feel uncomfortable in any way. Rely on alternative shapes or postures or breath when something doesn't feel comfortable for you. So mountain pose, we will cover that, but simply sitting comfortably in your chair or sitting comfortably on the floor or lying on the floor is just fine. And yogi's choice is fine too. If you have your own practice and you know what moves feel comfortable for you, feel free to adopt them. As I mentioned before, eyes are optional. You can have them open, closed, whatever feels comfortable for you. And just know that you know your body the best. So we're going to get into a little bit today about what is a chakra. And I can tell you that when I first entered my yoga practice and learned about chakras, I thought it was maybe a bunch of baloney. I didn't know, I've never heard of these things before. It seemed very out there to me at the time, being that I was coming from a science background. However, I've learned that whether or not you believe that chakras exist, whether or not you believe that they're swirling bodies of energy or access points in our bodies that allow us to connect between our emotions and thoughts in our body, it still gives you a path or opportunity to address certain issues. It's kind of like a playbook for self-care when you look at the chakras. So the way that they're defined is, and I love this quote, is the gateways between various dimensions of ourselves, such as thought and emotion, and connecting that with other dimensions like our physical bodies. They've been studied for thousands of years in many different cultures. There are, I think, hundreds of chakras in the body, but there are 7 main ones that flow down the center of the spine, from the crown of the head all the way to the base of our spine, our tailbone. Working with the chakras has been linked to increased lifespan, physical, mental, and emotional health and overall well-being. And it is, the word chakra is Sanskrit for wheel or disc. So these can be visualized as swirling wheels of color for some. And as you notice, each chakra on this person has a different color, and that is the color associated with that chakra. Like flowers, they can be open or closed, dying or budding. And what that means, we'll get into in just a bit when we talk about chakra psychology. So here's the introduction to the 7 main chakras. As you see, we start at our base, and this is where a lot of our attention is going to be focused today, as the root, or the first chakra. This is thought to be the first one that develops when we're growing in the womb. And it is its core focus is survival and tribe. The sacral chakra is the second one. And this, we'll talk a little bit more about what their functions are in just a second. Then we've got the solar plexus, which is going to be right below our ribs at the core of our abs. Our heart chakra, or anahata, is the heart. And this is thought to flow not just through the heart space, but through our arms as well. The throat is the 5th, third eye, and then the crown. Each of these, and really we could teach a whole class on each one for way longer than an hour and a half, but just briefly, I would like to tell you that each of these has a certain amount of psychology or emotion tied to it. The root is based on safety, security, stability, and foundation. When imbalanced, you can have feelings of fear and anxiety. So once again, I'll remind you, whether you believe this or not, what we're really looking at is a core structure or a playbook for self-care. So focusing on the root chakra can be helpful if you're feeling fear and anxiety. The sacral chakra is responsible for creative energies and desires, often including things like artistic expression or the sexual activity of a relationship and healthy relationships in general. When imbalanced, it can repress creative expression and emotional isolation. Now I'm going to pause for just a second and see if there's anything in the chat that I need to be concerned with, if I can. If it will let me.
There's nothing right now, Jessica.
Okay, great.
I just did send a reminder if everyone wants to check about the self-care virtual room that's available throughout the conference, but please continue, Jessica.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your help. When I have the screen shrunk down, it's hard to see the chat, so I really appreciate that. Next, the solar plexus chakra is responsible for self-esteem, willpower, and responsibility. When imbalanced, it can create a misuse of power, low self-esteem, or control issues. And as you see, the list goes on. For heart, the focus is love, and that's not just love for others, but self-love and governing relationships. When imbalanced, we can feel sadness or difficulty with those close to us, or a lack of self-discipline. The throat chakra is also one of my favorites to work with because it gives us the ability to speak and communicate effectively, but also to speak our truth. So if you're having issues, fessing up something, having a difficult conversation, working with the throat chakra can be a really great avenue for you. When imbalanced, it can have attributes of shyness, withdrawal, arrogance, or anxiety. The third eye is responsible for intuition, foresight, and imagination. When imbalanced, it can create a lack of direction and clarity. And finally, the crown chakra, responsible for a state of higher consciousness and divine connection. And this isn't necessarily religion. It can be divine connection to the universe, divine connection to nature, whatever speaks to you in your practice. When imbalanced, it can create cynicism, being closed-minded, or having a disconnection with our own spirit. As I mentioned, the root chakra is where we're going to focus our attention today. So to dive a little bit more into that, each of the chakras, as you may have noticed in the previous slides, are resembled by a flower or lotus. So the root chakra has a 4-petal flower. It is symbolized by the color red and located at the base of our spine. The Sanskrit word for this chakra is Muladhara, and it means root support. The element attached to it is earth, and the main theme is survival. And I'm sure you can already tell that survival is highly linked to the work we do in so many different ways, and we'll get more into that in just a second. This chakra represents safety, stability, and foundation. And the intentions for chakra work with our roots can begin with I have or I am. Themes for self-care that can be extrapolated from this are tribe, safety, belonging, support, connection, and grounding. So how does this relate to our experience as providers? Well, I think we're going to take a minute to get real here and dive in just a bit. I can tell you that my experience working in an emergency shelter for 9 years, there were many days, and I'm sure all of you can relate to this, that I didn't have time to eat. I didn't have time to breathe, to reflect on what was happening, sometimes even to take a drink of water. There were issues of significant illness, significant lifelong trauma, and medical emergencies happening all the time. And without addressing this kind of stress in our day-to-day, we can find ourselves burnt out and traumatized fast. So what do we do for that? I often tell people, if you don't have a self-care plan now, it's already too late if you're doing the work. So we really need to start as soon as possible if we don't have something set up. And another barrier for me in my practice has been time, right? I don't have time to practice self-care. I don't have an hour every day to go to a yoga class or to sit and meditate. My kids are up before I am, some may say, working 2 jobs or whatever is going on in our lives. Time is often an issue for us. However, self-care can be practiced 5 minutes at a time. So whether you're sitting at a desk, reading something, you can do some yoga poses. If you are going to the restroom, your walk there can be a mindful walk. Driving in the car can be a mindful drive. So just finding ways to integrate even a little bit of self-care into our day can have profound effects on us when working in this field. The root chakra gives us themes to work with that can counteract the stress, even during a video session with a client or a tough conversation with our boss. And we're going to learn some of those skills today. So how does it relate to tribe? Well, do I feel supported by my colleagues? Do I feel supported by my boss? Do I fit in? Think about imposter syndrome with belonging. Many of us are faced with highly difficult situations or highly difficult ethical considerations that we have to make every day. At times, we can feel like we're in over our heads, even if we have 10 years of experience. So that imposter syndrome always stays with us. Do I belong here? Am I capable of doing this work effectively? Am I helpful to those I'm serving? Safety is a huge concern for us. Am I safe, or are my clients safe when I conduct, and you can fill in the blank, home visits, investigations, arrests, going to a hearing, completing a suicide assessment with a client? We're dealing with themes of safety constantly in this work, not just for our clients, but for ourselves. Am I safe going into this? Support. Do we have a good relationship with the leaders of our team and those around us? And can we rely on them, our friends and our family, for support? Do we feel connected? Connected can mean many different things. Do I feel connected to the mission? Do I feel and believe in what I'm doing still? Do I feel connected to a sexual assault response team, even in collaborations in the community when we do outreach? And grounding. We are so often on to the next crisis, to the next project, to the next meeting, with no time to find our footing. We may not even have the resources. A lot of us experienced financial cuts this year that were unexpected. And that can impact our time. You know, if we're short-staffed, it can be almost impossible to find your footing. So what are some things that we can do? You know, we've addressed the problem, we've identified it. What can we do to help ourselves? So I'm going to talk through some basics, and then we're going to practice. We're going to do two different practices today. The first is going to be a brief meditation. Part of that will be where I am speaking during the meditation, and part of it will be sitting in contemplation or silence for 5 minutes. Remember, if you're not comfortable sitting in meditation for that long, that you are welcome to do something else. If you have a little toy or something with you to keep yourself busy. Also, right after the meditation, I'm going to ask that you answer some questions for yourself. So you may want to grab a piece of paper and a pen if you don't already have one. Oop. I skipped ahead of myself. So, what do I got going on here? Here we go. So what is meditation? Meditation can be daunting to some people. It is a specific technique for resting the mind, but it is not contemplating or thinking. It is not clearing our heads completely. Often when I speak to people about meditation, I find that they are frustrated and quit quickly because they expect that they will sit there with a blank mind. And this is not the purpose of meditation at all, actually. The purpose of meditation is to do reps, as I like to call them. It's where we observe our thoughts and our experiences in the moment, and we bring ourselves back. So as I'm sitting in meditation, often this happens to me. My mind wanders. Sometimes I don't even notice that it's wandering. But in the moment that I do notice, I bring myself back to the moment. That is meditation, that rep. And every time you're able to notice and bring yourself back to the moment, that gets stronger for you. That connection gets stronger. Over time, this can start to limit our reactions to stress and strain. Because as we practice in meditation, we become in the real world as well. So when we're able to take our distracting thoughts and notice them and bring ourselves back to the moment, we can start doing that in meetings. We can start doing that in difficult situations with clients. We find that it starts to bleed out or spread out into many other areas of our life. It is also not religion or prayer. So you may bring your religion into meditation if you'd like to. However, it is not the main point of it at all. Meditation is not meant to be focused on praying to any particular person or any particular ideal. It is really meant to connect us deeper with ourselves and help us pay attention to our monkey minds that tend to swing from tree to tree to tree. And intentions. A lot of us, without realizing it, set ourselves up for failure when we talk about intentions. It's because we make them too complex or we focus on the negative. So here are some helpful tips I would suggest you use whenever setting intentions for yourself. You first want to keep them simplistic and singular. For instance, if you're trying to focus on being more present in your day-to-day, a great intention is, I am here. It tells you exactly what you need to know. It is short, to the point, and easy to repeat to yourself during times of stress. Versus, I am here with awareness and strength in my convictions, and I'm grounded and I'm wonderful and dancing with the birds. This type of intention that goes on and on and on is too much for us. We cannot commit to being all these wonderful things at one time. It's really important to just focus on one particular thing. Positivity can be a really great tool in intentions. So when we look at things that we would like to change or manifest, and that's what intentions are for, is just manifesting something, bringing something into your life that doesn't exist now or that you would like to improve. We tend to focus on what we're not doing right. So I need to eat more healthy instead of I nourish my body with healthy foods. I'm not mad versus I am calm. So make sure when you're working with intentions that you're focusing on the positive of what you would like to manifest in your life. Present focused. So we want to say intentions as if they're already happening because we're manifesting this, correct? So we don't want to say, I will be kind. I am kind. And we want to be very intentional about our intentions. See what I did there? I'm a nerd, I'm sorry. I laugh about things all the time like that. Also, I forgot to mention, I'm getting over this terrible cold. So if I seem raspy or if I have to cough, I apologize. But Murphy's Law, of course, I would get a cold before this. So back to intentional. We want to take a few minutes to think on what we need to manifest in our life. We can do this through journaling, meditation, periods of reflection while driving. And we want to revisit our intentions after we use them and notice the experience. Was this intention actually helpful for me? Or did I need something else in that moment? As we practice with our intentions and practice creating them, we'll get better and better at this. And sometimes we can create one on the fly if needed. So we are going to do an activity now, but I'm going to pause first and once again just ask if there are any questions in the chat that I need to know about.
I'm sorry, I was muted.
That's okay.
No, there's nothing in the chat. You are explaining yourself too thoroughly.
Oh, good. That's wonderful. So what we're going to do here is have a bit of a meditation break. We're going to have some guided meditation and some reflective meditation for about 5 minutes. I will give cues with a singing bowl. So I have my trusty singing bowl here. She sounds like this. Very nice. So I will ring our singing bowl when we're done with our 5 minutes of meditation to let you know that it's time to focus on our post-meditation questions. I'll ring the bowl again when we're done with our activity and the 15 minutes has elapsed. And I just wanted to point out that this will be for you alone. I won't be asking anyone to share the answers to their questions. If you feel so called to and you want to share your intention in the chat with the group, you're welcome to do that, but you don't have to. The questions that we're going to be looking into is, how do I want to feel in the next week? So the work that you're doing here today, I'm hoping can help you throughout this week and next week in what you're doing in your careers. Are there any goals you'd like to accomplish in the next week? And this can be personal or professional. And remember, the goals should be very specific if you're thinking about doing it from that lens. So being more aware, that's a good goal, but it's kind of lofty. You might want to narrow it down a bit. Have you noticed any themes in your work or any themes that you're struggling with lately? It could be, for me, sometimes patience is the theme that I need to practice. And so I'll integrate that theme into my intention setting. And can you find one word in these themes to focus your intention? So remember, simplicity is our friend when it comes to setting these. And in the beginning, we're adding I have or I am. And the reason that we're doing this is because I have and I am are great intention starters for the root chakra. It has to do with those themes we talked about of belonging and connection. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a moment, if I can. There we go, stop share. Wonderful. And I'm going to invite everyone to take a very comfortable seat. If your camera's on and you don't want it on, you're welcome to turn it off. It doesn't bother me at all. The comfortable seat can be on the floor or in your chair. And the first thing we're going to do is wiggle it out. So we've been sitting here now for a half an hour, and you guys have been sitting for probably quite some time if this is not your first session today. So just take a moment if you need to stand up for a second, wiggle your hands, just wiggle it out a little bit. And once you're done wiggling, find your comfortable seat. So we don't want to slouch, and I'm going to back up just a bit. Let me see where I'm at with the camera here. Perfect. So we don't want to slouch in our chairs. We don't want to have our shoulders rounded and down. So if you need to, I find it can be helpful to go up, back, and down and do some shoulder rolls before we sit. Just get ourselves a little comfortable. Some people don't know what to do with their hands when they meditate. So I'm going to back up just a bit more. Oh, I should probably tilt the camera. A little camera work for you. And so we don't know what to do with our hands when we first sit down for meditation. I find it's great to just let your arms fall to the side and then pick your hands up and put them on your lap. This gives you a natural location for the shoulders and the arms to be in. The palms of the hands can be facing down onto the knees if you'd like for grounding. They can also be facing up for receiving. This is a great posture, or the hands up is a great thing if you're needing more energy in your day. So after everyone finds a seat, we can talk about eyes. So your eyes can be closed if they're comfortable with that. If you'd like to leave them wide open, you're welcome to do that. And if you'd like to leave them slightly closed. So this is a great tactic for clients who struggle with PTSD, because closing our eyes can be a very big trigger, leaving us vulnerable to our environment. So I always welcome clients and staff alike to leave eyes open or slightly closed, so that they can still observe their environment and feel safe. So we're going to sit with the ringing of the bowl for just a moment. And as you listen to the ringing of the bowl, begin noticing your body. What feels comfortable and what doesn't? Is there anything that needs to be adjusted? Now is the time. Making any tiny movements we need to feel more comfortable. Let's begin to look at our breath. Let's begin to listen to our breath. As you listen to the air entering and leaving your mouth, begin to allow each breath to deepen and to slow. Taking our breath all the way from our nose to our belly, just below our diaphragm. As we breathe in, we notice our belly rise. And as we exhale, we notice our belly fall. Inhale, belly rises. And exhale, belly falls. Inhale, belly rises. And exhale, belly falls. Feel your body begin to relax and dig deeper into the flow of your breath, noticing the peace of this moment. On your next inhale, begin to picture the most clear light and bright version of the color red you can imagine. Envision this color made of light, waves, or particles, and really focus your attention on this color. How deep is the color? Is it transparent or opaque? Allow the red light to flow down through the top of your head. Feel its warmth. Notice and visualize as the red light begins to flow through the body to your neck and shoulders, relaxing each place the light touches. Notice as the light flows through each arm to your fingertips. Notice as the light flows down through your heart space to your back, your belly, all the way down through the hips. Notice as this red light flows through our knees to our ankles and through each toe. Stay focused on the color of red and allow yourself to gently merge into it more and more. Feel your hands connected to your root chakra by placing them on the lowest part of your abdomen that you feel comfortable. And remember, these are all invitations. As you place your hands over the root chakra, begin seeing the color you were watching before glowing there. As we sit in meditation, remember that our purpose is not singular focus and clear mind. It is to bring ourselves back. We will now sit for 5 minutes. Begin to bring your awareness back into the room. We'll now take 5 minutes to answer and journal on our questions. I'm going to put those slides up again. So we'll now focus on building our intention with these questions. What is it that we would like to feel in the next week? Are there any goals we wish to accomplish, whether personal or professional? When we answer these questions, do we notice any themes come up for us? Or perhaps you noticed a theme in your meditation as you observed your monkey minds. And can you find one word in these themes to focus your intention? Looks like we've got about 2 minutes left before we move on. Welcome back. Pay attention to what you noticed during your meditation. I find meditation can be a different experience for everyone. Some of us feel frustration when we meditate. Others feel calm and peace. Typically, these feelings mean something for us. If you did develop an intention that you would like to share with the group, you're welcome to put it in the chat, but there's no pressure. So now that you have your intention, what do you do with it? Well, you could wake up every morning and say it to yourself in the mirror if you like. You can practice with it whenever, actually. It can be practiced when driving or meditating, when doing yoga, as we'll see in just a bit, when practicing deep breathing. Some people inhale and say the intention to themselves and exhale, believing it is true. So for instance, if your intention is, I am here, you may inhale and say, I am here to myself. And when I exhale, I notice myself being present. I find practicing with intentions can be very helpful if we're waiting for something. If we have that anticipation of something stressful or just a big deal, it could be a positive thing, but still causing us angst. Practicing intention can be very powerful when waiting or before sending that email or text. You guys know what I'm talking about. We've all had hard days at the office and sent an email too hastily and went back to read it later, regretting our decisions of our word choices. So perhaps practicing with intention prior to sending that email can be helpful. And before responding to a client in crisis, now I know what you're thinking. The client's in crisis, I don't have time to practice with intentions, right? Well, you would be wrong. You do have to walk to where the client is, or there is a moment of realization and going to help that person. Intention practice can happen for a split second before something. If you're walking into an emergency or you're walking into a hearing in court, you can practice with intention. I am calm. I belong here. I am helpful. And the language that we think with impacts us profoundly. So practicing regularly can have an impact on the way that we view our day, the way that we handle a stressful situation. We have to be very careful with the language we use to speak to ourselves. I find that we can be very hard on ourselves. We can put ourselves down a lot, especially if we're struggling with the themes we've mentioned before, like belonging or imposter syndrome. So practicing with intention during periods of a lack of trust in oneself can be very helpful. And I'm just going to pop into the chat really quick and see, I see some wonderful intentions here. I am focused and intentional with my word. I am blessed. I am grateful. I am capable. That's a great one. I love this comment about practicing intention and taking a mindful moment before entering sessions with clients, even in the midst of them. I think that's a great idea, especially if we're leaving a particularly difficult session and going into the next. It can be hard for us as providers not to carry that trauma and that stress with us onto the next client. And I think taking a moment between sessions to practice is brilliant. I am at peace. That's a great one as well. So next we're going to look at breath. One of the easiest breath work or easiest breath exercises to do is the Ujjai Breath. I've also heard, and particularly kids, call it the Darth Vader breath because it kind of sounds a little bit like Darth Vader when you do it right. This is a breath that you've already practiced before. We actually fall into it naturally when we're sleeping. So you know that breath you have right before you're falling asleep, or the breath that you hear that tells you someone else is about to fall asleep. For instance, if you're on the couch watching a movie with a friend and you suddenly notice they've fallen asleep, it's usually the Ujjai breath that you're hearing. It can be described as sounding like the echo of an ocean in a seashell. And we achieve this through a slight closure of the vocal cords at the base of our throat. So we try to make the sound of a wave in our out breath and our in breath. This can be very easy to master, and we can take it with us anywhere. Even during a session, as one of you mentioned before, we can take breaks. When things become too intense, we can also ask our clients to take breaks with us. It's a perfect modeling opportunity for self-care. The other thing that the Ujjai breath does is it activates our vagus nerve. This is one of the biggest nerves in our body. It runs from the brain all the way through the abdomen. It affects our cardiac system. It's tied to our esophagus and to our lungs. It has a parasympathetic function that assists us with relaxation without even having to think about it. When we engage the vagus nerve, our body relaxes. It tells our body we are safe and we can enter a mode of rest or digestion. This is one of the reasons we fall into it naturally when falling asleep. It's what our body needs at that moment. So I'm going to ask everyone now to just for a couple of minutes, practice Ujjai breath. I'm going to check the chat. When it comes to breath work, we want to be very careful. If we start to feel too lightheaded or dizzy at any point, we should stop and return to our normal breath. Some tingling in the face is completely normal when you're practicing. And we call the practice of breath work, we call that pranayama in yoga. Prana means life force, and our breath is our life force. It's something we can take with us everywhere. We always have it. And so if we are practicing even just an Ujjai breath, we don't have to get too intense with the breath practice for it to work. It can have profound effects on our day and our stress. And yes, as Ariel, I believe your name is, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, says in the chat, the vagus nerve does align very well with polyvagal theory and with our chakras. So it's interesting how it all comes together, right? That's great. So let's practice. I may cough during this point, and I'm sorry, as I mentioned before, I'm recovering from a cold, so it's the worst time to try to teach breathing techniques. But alas, here we are. So let's find that comfortable seat again. We can do the backward shoulder rolls if we'd like, up, back, and down. Feeling our spine lengthen like a string of pearls being pulled from our floor and our ceiling. Take a deep breath into the belly. And then we can begin. So when we inhale, we should make that noise coming from the base of or the top of our throat, right near our vocal cords here. And remember, what we're looking for is the sound of a wave, or the sound of the ocean in a seashell, or the sound of Darth Vader, if that visualization works for you. So let's practice. Inhale. I'm going to get close to my computer. I don't know if you can hear it, but I'll try. So let's practice this for a few breaths. Taking that Ujjai breath all the way down to our belly. This breath can be extremely helpful when sitting in difficult conversations, especially if you're in trouble at work or you have to have a hard conversation with your boss or a client. It can also be incredibly helpful when we're feeling anxious. And on your next out breath, feel free to return to your normal breath rhythm. If there is anything you noticed while practicing that you would like to share with the group, you're welcome to put it in the chat. We'd love to see it. For me, I can share that I did have some light tingling in the face, which I know is normal. For some, that can feel a little scary. So if you backed off because of that, that's perfectly fine. I also noticed I got a little tired. It is after lunch, after all, and we're practicing a breath that we do naturally when falling asleep. I see some of us found ourselves humming, and that actually is a perfect segue into another breath called Bremari Breath. I don't have a slide on that, but that's bee breath. And we hum during our exhales with our mouths closed. And since we brought it up, why don't we just do it for a really quick second? Why not? We're here, right? So we inhale, and when we exhale, we hum. This humming breath actually can be very helpful if we need to withdraw into ourselves. There's a lot of stimulation going on around you. It can also be helpful to cover your eyes while doing the Bremari breath. Thanks for bringing that up. I didn't know the conversation would go in that direction, but I highly suggest looking it up and practicing with that as well. There are many different breathing techniques, and we just need to find the ones that are comfortable for us. I would caution you to practicing anything that has you retaining your breath for too long if you're new to pranayama. If you're doing something that has you retaining your breath or holding your breath for a significant amount of time, I would suggest doing that with a professional or a teacher first until you get the hang of it. I noticed that for some of us, we felt calm, and for some of us, it's not easy to do the breath when you have a fan blowing in your face. I concur, I agree. I also have a fan coming, and that may have had some impact on my practice. That's great insights. We can also practice breath work while doing yoga. So if you find you're holding a pose that's particularly difficult or a little uncomfortable for you, these can be stretch poses. For instance, we will be practicing with a chair version of Pigeon later, and that stretch through the outside of our thigh can feel very intense. If it's too intense, we should back off. But if we're just nearing our edge, we can practice that Ujjai Breath to help us get through that moment. This is a list of postures that can support your roots. So yoga and chakra psychology also go hand in hand, in that a lot of yoga postures correspond to specific chakras. You can actually Google yoga for the throat chakra and get a whole list of poses that are helpful for the throat. You can Google any one of these poses here and find not just pictures, but videos on YouTube or what have you, different websites on how to practice these, whether that be in chair or on a mat or in the front yard if you like to practice outside, as some of us do. And I invite you to not think of yoga practice as something that is cumbersome or something that you have to do a lot of. Right at the beginning of the training, we were talking about how when we practice, sometimes we think we have to do a half an hour or an hour in order to check off the box that we practiced yoga. But this isn't the case. I can tell you just practicing one pose when you wake up in the morning or in between a meeting, that is practicing yoga. Calling yourself into the moment, connecting your movement with your mind is yoga, even if it's just for a moment. How do we integrate this into our daily life? So we're getting ready to practice a chair yoga sequence that will last about 20 minutes. When we do that, I'm going to ask that if you do have a chair without armrests on it, that would be the most beneficial. However, if your chair has armrests, that's okay. We can work with that too. And chair yoga, the reason that I picked it is because we're in our chairs a lot in this work. We're sitting in meetings, talking to clients, talking to prosecutors, police, all of the partners that we have in this work. And so with that sitting comes opportunity. We can do it at our desk or during lunch breaks. At wake and sleep times is also a really nice way to integrate yoga into your daily life. At a sporting event or movie, we're sitting anywhere we're sitting in chairs. On an airplane, we can practice yoga. While binging Netflix, we can practice yoga. So we can't say really that there's no time to practice yoga because we spend time doing all of these things. Talking on the phone. If you have a weekly phone call with your parents or your cousin or your brother, you can practice some chair yoga while you're talking. Even with a practice of 5 minutes a day, we can start to see results in just a couple weeks. We'll notice that we have increased flexibility, increased range of motion, depending on the areas of the body that we're working with, less stress, and more awareness into our daily life. One of the well-known teachers of Hatha Yoga is Iyengar. And he has this quote that I absolutely love. It says, "The practice of yoga at most will help you to achieve enlightenment. But at the least, it allows you to tie your shoes when you're 80. And I love that. The practice of yoga, it takes us wherever we want to go. So we may, who knows, I hope some of us are lucky enough in our lifetime to achieve enlightenment. But I would be perfectly happy tying my shoes when I'm 80. So really quick before we get into our practice, I just wanted to remind you of a couple of things. Cameras are optional. I'll have mine on, of course, so that you can see the poses. Remember the safety tips of being our own guide and stopping immediately if something feels uncomfortable. There's a difference between approaching your edge and crossing your edge, and only you know what that is. Anything that causes pain should be stopped immediately. Remember that you can remember that you can fall into a resting pose at any time, which is just simply sitting in a relaxed state in your chair with your hands on your thighs or at your sides. We will be reminded during our practice to focus on our intention and breath. Tying breath with movement can be very powerful in yoga, but it can be uncomfortable for some. So remember, this is your practice. Every time you practice yoga, it is your practice. Even if you're going to a studio, the best teachers will tell you, you can lay on the mat and do nothing the whole class if that's what you need today. And you can do the same here. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to take just a second to adjust myself so that everyone can see me properly in my space. You're welcome to take a chair, or you can get on the floor if that's more comfortable for you. All of these poses can be practiced either or. Let me see here, just a little bit back. Maybe we'll go up. There we go. Maybe just a little bit down. Sorry, bear with me here. Just want to make sure you can get the best view of me possible as we begin our practice. So here we are. You see I'm sitting in a chair that does not have armrests on it, which is going to allow me to move a little bit more in these directions. If you have armrests, that's fine. You can bring your seat right to the edge, and it can help you to avoid some of that. The first thing we're going to do is just center ourselves in mountain pose. So if you're standing, mountain pose is very involved, and it is as well when you're in a chair. What we first want to do is feel our roots, our feet, grounding down into the earth. Notice all the four corners of your feet. You may rock your feet back and forth a little bit, feeling each toe press into the earth. Remember our shoulder rolls that we did earlier? Let's do a couple of those. So go up, back, and down. Up, back, and down. I get a lot of questions about why we don't do shoulder rolls forward. You're welcome to do that. However, I find we spend a lot of time hunched over like this on our computers. And so really what our bodies are needing is that opening of our heart space. Once you have your shoulders nice and relaxed where you'd like, think about your spine and elongating as a string of pearls being tugged at each end. Feel each vertebrae create space. We'll take our chin parallel with the earth and our shoulders nice and relaxed. From this mountain pose, we'll begin to notice our breath. Inhaling deep into our bellies and exhaling as our belly falls. We'll do this for several breaths. Inhale, belly rises, and exhale, belly falls. Inhale, belly rises, and exhale, belly falls. Feel yourself grounding down into the earth, knowing that the earth is there to support you at all times, as is your breath. Call into your mind the intention you set for yourself earlier. I will use the example of I am here. So throughout our practice, as you hear me say, I am here, that's an invitation for you to think about your own intention. Now let's do some movement, shall we? So the first thing we're going to do is notice my Wonder Woman shirt. I wore it just for all of you today. And the second thing we're going to do is cat-cows in the chair. So you may have done cat-cow on knees and hands before in yoga practice. Doing it in the chair, sitting up, is just as beneficial for our spine. So what we'll do is as we inhale, we'll start at our roots, at the base of our spine, and we'll begin to tilt our pelvis and create a nice dip in our spine, moving one vertebrae at a time. And as we exhale, once again, starting from our roots, we begin to round the back. And I find it can be easier to use your hands as a guide. So inhale, as you notice my hands slide back on my legs, and exhale as I round my back and slide forward. So let's practice that a few times. And after your next cat-cow, let's find ourselves in an easy seat again. Inhale, exhale, as we bring our hands up. If goal posting is what's comfortable for you, this is perfectly fine. Or you can raise your arms up completely and look up at the sky, or the ceiling in my case. Inhale, exhale, as we begin to fold forward. We can stop wherever is comfortable for us. So folding forward and putting your hands on your knees is where you're at. This is great. If you would like to continue folding forward, you can bring your hands all the way down to the earth if that's comfortable for you. Once your hands get to the place that they're comfortable, allow your back to relax, feeling that stretch all the way down the spine into our root chakra, our low back. Remembering our Ujjai breath here and calling into our intention. I am here. On your next exhale, rise up. So inhale and exhale as you come up. In yoga, a lot of times we inhale as we're rising, but I find it engages our core muscles a lot more when we exhale when we rise. Next, we're going to do a seated spinal twist. Our spines like to move in many different ways, so we're going to make sure we fit all of those movements into our practice today. So we'll start by inhaling, arms up or goal posted. And as we exhale, we're going to twist to the right, and our left hand will fall right to our right knee, and our right hand to the back of our chair. Our gaze will be just over our right shoulder. As you inhale, relax the twist a bit. And as you exhale, deepen the twist however much is comfortable for you. I am here. Inhale, twisting back and arms up to the center. And exhale as we twist to the other side. Our right hand resting on our left knee. Left hand resting on the seat behind us. Our gaze goes over our left shoulder here. As we inhale, we can relax the twist a bit. And as we exhale, we can deepen our twist, however much is comfortable for us. I am here. Inhale, exhale. And in our next inhale, we'll twist to the center, arms up again. And exhale, our arms down to our sides. Here we're going to play a little bit with breath and movement and do something called Kundalini Circles. It's on the list I gave you, poses. You're welcome to look this up later. Kundalini Circles are great for the root chakra and good for practicing pairing your breath with your movement. What we'll do is we'll begin our circle over our right knee, and we inhale as we move forward and exhale as our circle takes us back. Strong core here, inhale forward and exhale back. And you can do this at your own pace. And your next circle forward, we'll pause in the center, and let's begin going in the other direction. Bonus points if you can hear your own breath. And find your center. Next, we're going to go into leg lifts. So let's find that mountain pose once again in our chairs. Get nice and stable into the earth, grounding the four corners of your feet. And we will raise our right leg out and just hold it there. When you're here, you're welcome to do some ankle circles if you like. Shake the foot out a little bit. If you're feeling particularly stretchy today, you can take the toe. And release. Find those four corners of the feet, grounding down into that right foot as you raise your left leg, holding it into the air. Feel free to do those ankle rolls if you like, or grasp the toe. And release. Next, we're going to take our stance, our feet a little bit wide here. Make sure you adjust yourself on your chair so you're nice and comfortable and able to bend forward. We'll inhale, lifting our arms up, and exhale as we fold into a wide-legged forward fold. You can bring your hands to the earth, to your knees, your shins, wherever is comfortable for you. While we're here, we can plant our left hand on the earth or on our knee and raise the right hand toward the sky for a side angle pose. This gives us a great chest opening and helps us to work the top of the body as well as the lower body. Inhale and exhale as that right hand comes down and plants into the earth. Inhale and exhale that left arm up, side angle on this side. I am here. On your next exhale, you can bring your hand down and walk your hands up your legs to a seated position once more. It looks like we have about 5 minutes left. So with our final pose, we'll practice chair pigeon. What we're going to do here is cross our right leg over our left knee. We don't want the ankle resting on the leg because that would put too much pressure on our ankle. Not good for us. So make sure your ankle is just over the knee. This may be enough for you here. Sometimes our bodies are different than others. You may be able to do this pose great one day, and it may be difficult the next, and that's okay. If you're feeling good here, you're welcome to begin leaning forward and folding over that front leg. Here, we're going to take a moment to stretch and relax. You're going to feel that stretch through the outer thigh of your right leg. Remember to focus on your breathing, maybe even practicing that Darth Vader or Ujjai Breath. And focus your intention as well. I am here. If you're folded over that front leg, you're welcome to come back up. And we'll bring that leg down to the earth. Notice the difference between each leg now. Does the right leg feel more stretched, more alive than the left, or not? Just notice the difference. On your next exhale, you can lift the left leg, crossing it over the right. Remembering not to put too much pressure on your ankle here. This may be where you're at today, and that's okay. If you're so inclined, exhale and begin to fold forward over that leg. I am here. Noticing as that stretch goes all the way through the outer thigh. Walk yourself back up to seated. And put your leg back. And let's shake our legs out. Go ahead and shake your legs. Give them a little wiggle. Do whatever you want to do. Wiggle it out. So that is just a very brief 15-minute yoga practice that you can do at your desk. You can do any combination of the poses that I listed for you in the slides, or you can create something that feels great for you. For the last thing, I just wanted to do a checkout question. I know we all have maybe another session to go to in 2 minutes. You just want to pop one word in the chat for how you're feeling right now. So we have refreshed, centered, ease, grateful. You're welcome. A bit sleepy, yes. So imagine if we did this right before bed. It might help us to get a better night's sleep. Okay, wow. That concludes our practice for today. I see it is 2:30. So I just wanted to, if anybody has any questions they want to pop in the chat really quick, I'm here. Otherwise, it was wonderful practicing with you today. And I hope that you're able to take the things that we did here and bring them into your next week.
You are muted, Kendra.
Go ahead, April. I'm muted anyway.
Thank you so much, Jessica. That was amazing. I really appreciated this. I was looking forward to this workshop today. For those of you, just a little housekeeping. For those of you who need CEU or CLU credits, the code word for this session is balance, BALANCE. We have about a 15-minute break. Followed by workshop sessions starting at 2:45. So please refer to the OAESV.org 2021 conference program for join links. Thank you again, Jessica.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.
You do the same.